Welcome back. You're watching What's Hot on Cnbc TV 18, and the hot discussion tonight, even as the deadline for implementation of new automobile emission norms looms large, doubts about implementation as well as pricing has left the auto industry in a tizzy. So just how prepared is the country for the 13-city Euro 4 rollout scheduled for Thursday? That's the 1st of April. And what are the industry's concerns? Joining us, R.C. Bhargava, Chairman, Maruti Suzuki, and Pawan Goenka, President of SIAM. Gentlemen, many thanks for joining us. Mr. Goenka, let me start by asking you, sir, I know SIAM as well as the industry has been asking the government to actually postpone the new emission norms by about 6 months. There seems to be no clarity at this point in time whether the government will indeed postpone. As of now, as things stand, 1st of April, the new emission norms come into play.
Yes. First of all, let me clarify that the reason we had asked for postponement was only to align with the availability of fuel, since the fuel for BS3 norms will not be available from 1st of April, as was stipulated. So we had requested the government to align with the fuel availability, and as of today, which is only 2 days away from the deadline, we do not have a formal communication from the government on whether and how long will the norms be postponed. But informally, we have been informed that BS4 norms will come in effect on 1st of April as per schedule, and the fuel also will be available for BS4 norms throughout the country. I mean, not throughout the country, sorry, the 13 cities. The BS3 norms, however, will be postponed perhaps to October 1st, because that's when the BS3 fuel will be available throughout the country.
Okay, so you're saying BS3 will be postponed to the 1st of October and BS4 will roll out on the 1st of April?
That is correct.
Sir, but you know, this 13-city rollout, what sort of a dilemma is this actually for manufacturers? Because you can't be producing vehicles for different parts of the country. So how does a manufacturer actually address this 13-city approach that the government seems to be taking?
No, this is not different from what we have today. Even today, we have BS3 norms in 13 cities and BS2 norms rest of the country, which was supposed to become BS4 and BS3, and now it will be BS4 and BS2. So in any case, we are going to have two sets of norms in the country, and we will have two sets of norms even in the new situation. So that is not a problem. The problem is different, however. The problem is that the BS4 norm, the vehicles that fly in those areas will have to go to other cities when somebody goes for a long drive, and then to fill BS2 fuel in those vehicles could cause a problem. So we have discussed that with the government.
Okay. Let me bring Mr. Bhargava in. Mr. Bhargava, you just heard Pawan Goenka say how realistic and practical is this? You're going to ask somebody who doesn't have, BS3 fuel available in his city to actually drive to another city to get refueled. What are we actually talking about here, sir?
No, this is not something new which has happened, because even in the past when we introduced vehicles with the higher emission standards, there were cities with lower emission standards, the fuel was different. But we have always assumed that there will be different fuels available in different parts of the country. And the deadline specified for introduction of an upgraded fuel may not be met. There could be slippages. And that's what's happening this time. So what we have done, our engineers have done, is when they've configured the systems in these automobiles, they have so configured them and tested them to see that even if they were to use the lower grade fuel, the BS2 fuel, there would be no significant impact either on the engine or the catalyzer. So what we are doing is that all our vehicles from April 1 will conform to BS4, and they will be capable of using even BS2 fuel without being adversely affected.
Mr. Bhargava, what kind of investments are we actually talking about? And I'll put that same question to Mr. Goenka from a larger industry point of view. But for Maruti to be able to move to these emission norms, what kind of investments are we talking about?
See, the investment depends from model to model. For example, some of the engines which we have, like the 800cc engine, which we have been using on the Alto, or the 1300cc engine, those are capable of being upgraded to BS4 without too much of an effort. In other cases, we have to put in a new engine, the K-series engine, and that requires not only an investment in the manufacturing of the engine, but the whole system becomes a higher cost. So there is no one uniform price increase in the cost for the vehicles across the board, that you upgrade everything from BS3 to BS4 and there would be a similar increase in all. That's not true. There will be different amounts and we have to see how best to adjust.
All right, Mr. Goenka, what is this actually going to mean for consumers? Because around the budget, everyone that we spoke to within the auto industry was concerned that the excise had been rolled back by 2%, plus you had fuel prices going up, and then there was the concern on what the emission norms could actually do as well. So what are you actually factoring in at the consumer level? What kind of a pass on are we going to see?
Okay. So for the time being, impact will be only on the 13 cities because the remaining part of the country still will have the same emission norm. For these 13 cities, two things will happen. One, the vehicle prices will go up. And as Mr. Bhargav said, that the increase will be different for different vehicles depending on whether it was simple upgradation of the engine or a significant change or even a new engine. What will also happen, as you know, that the fuel prices for BS4 will go up slightly, as has been indicated already. So there could be a hit of 50 paisa to 60 paisa on the fuel prices for BS4. So there will be a fuel impact and the vehicle cost impact.
Okay, so two significant impacts that consumers will have to deal with. Pawan Goenka, many thanks for joining us. But Mr. Bhargav, I can't let you go, sir, without talking to you. Tomorrow is going to be a significant day for you because you're changing gears in that sense. You're moving to becoming an author, sir, with the Maruti story. That's your book that you're going to release tomorrow. Tell us about that.
Actually, it's day after. It's not tomorrow. It's on the 31st. And this is a book which I had wanted to write for some time but never got down to it. I started on this on 2008 after the publishers, HarperCollins, encouraged me to do so, and they found me a co-author to write the book. And with the help of the co-author, Sita, I was able to get this book written down. It's not only a story of how Maruti has reached where it has reached and all the different types of turns and ups and downs which we had to go through, but I've also attempted to deal with some larger policy issues relating to working as a public sector company, transforming from that into a private company, in dealing with the human relations management systems, the Japanese systems, and how we change the vendor management system and all those things which go into a more broader aspect of management of industry as such. So I think it's something which is more than just a story of a car.
So share with us an interesting anecdote, sir. What would to your mind be the highlight as far as the book is concerned if you were to sort of bring it down to an anecdote?
Well, I don't think it's one simple thing which you can get into an anecdote on a story which stretches for over 20 years. But, the process of selecting the partner for making this car, the number of times when it looked like we were going to get stuck with nobody wanting to come to India with the kind of conditions which were laid down, the surprises which we had to go through when the factory was being looked at for being remodeled for taking the car, it almost collapsed. And things of that kind kept happening all the time. So, in those early years, it was a big excitement of what would happen next day. The vendors in those days were not equipped to supply anything like this volume, and we had people sitting up at night at the railway station trying to get the components onto the car, at airports at night trying to get cargo off, meeting the security regulations because they said every part has to go through a cooling period before it can be shipped. I mean, it was one big excitement. People today don't know what it means to work, what it was to work in those days.
Well, they'll just have to read your book to find out. R.C. Bhargav, many thanks for joining us, and we wish you the very best of luck with your new drive. And catch R.C. Bhargav's book. It's available on newsstands, and it will be launched by the Finance Minister day after tomorrow. Many thanks indeed, sir, for joining us.